I have to apologize. It seems that in my quest to compile all queer X-Men characters, I actually ended up missing not one, but two characters. And when I think about, how could I possibly have missed this, I'm gonna count the fact that for once I quit X-Twitter, like 2 years ago, so I stopped getting a lot of X-Men content that way. And also, yeah, I don't know why, but I did get notice of Ben because I saw people talking about him, and I also read the Hellfire Vigil because I was promised Neither and Shatterstar. And if they're gonna be there, so am I. So, here's my formal apology for Calico and Jitter from the Uncanny X-Men, whom I completely missed out on. To make up for it, here they are. Can you peel a sticker? Great question. Okay. Alright, there you go. Thank you. Oh, this is really dirty. Thank you. Thank you. No, you could not have paid me money to put that poster back up. This is the biggest canvas I own, and they barely fit the other time round, so no. This is as good as it's gonna get. Calico, Becca Simon Panette. Jitter, Sophia Young. You know the drill, no major spoilers for series currently in publication. Becca can magically enhance her dead/undead horse and form a magical duo. Jitter can become proficient in any skill for 60 seconds at a time. She is Singaporean and has a stutter. Their teammate, Valentine, notes that they both blush while interacting with one another. Becca will end up revealing her feelings for Sophia when she urges her to get to safety by bursting out, "You get to safety, I love you!" and later on addressing Sophia as her girlfriend. Now, I did not write a intro for this video, so here we are back on regularly scheduled program. Here are 14 more characters from the 616 that could be seen as queer. In this video, we will be speculating on these characters' identities, but please remember, these are fictional characters. Black Tom, Tom Cassidy. Tom Cassidy. Banshee's cousin who has weird powers, secondary mutations, science experiments on top, and whatnot. Initially, he could just create a blast of bioenergy by using wood to focus his powers. He would do this mostly through the use of his shillelagh, which he used as an aid for his limp. They later grafted onto him some bio-wood, which granted him some sort of a healing factor, and fixed his limp, which made the shillelagh redundant. During the Cocoon era, he also shared a link with the island, which greatly increased his power set. He was able to control it at his will and displace his conscience to different parts of it. Tom is well known for his friendship with Juggernaut, Professor X's half-brother, and many writers have played up this idea, most notably our king, Fabian Nicieza, who keeps talking about writing them as a couple, and you can absolutely see it through his writing. Because yes, you know, if you put on the right goggles, half of the X-Men could be queer, but like, Tom Cassidy would still come on top. Because no matter how much they won't let him be officially Juggernaut's boyfriend, he literally builds boulders shaped like him in his sleep, dreams about him, tickling him, and we can't forget that they have technically raised at least one child together. Maybe 3. Or 4. And listen, Teresa Cassidy turned out just fine, okay? So in their youth, Sean and cousin Tom fought over the heart of a woman named Maeve, but ultimately Maeve chose Sean and they were married, with Tom serving as best man at their wedding. Not long after the wedding, though, Sean, who was working for Interpol, had to leave the picture on a mission and could not be contacted during his time away. This meant he missed out on the birth of his own daughter, Teresa, who would later be the X-Men known as Siren, because he didn't even know that Maeve was pregnant to begin with. Before Sean came back from the mission, Maeve was killed in a terrorist bombing by the IRA, and so Tom took the baby in. When Sean finally came back, he was devastated with the news and blamed Tom for not protecting his wife and lashed out on him. Tom ended up badly injured, leaving to his limp. This incident also prompted Tom to just not tell Sean about the baby because he felt that Sean clearly did not have the temperament to be a father and so raised the kid himself instead. He hid the truth from Sean for many years and told Teresa that her parents had died and that he was her uncle. He's not her uncle, he is her cousin. Black Tom and Juggernaut first met in prison. Tom was arrested for black marketing and Teresa was about 15 at the time. And when they got out, they decided to start their be gay, do crimes together. On their first encounter with the X-Men, Black Tom introduces Juggernaut as his muscular friend, and the two as the villains who together will kill the X-Men. When Nightcrawler hits Juggernaut with a candle from the chandelier, Jug remarks that it actually hurt him, and Tom threatens to make Nightcrawler pay for that 1,000-fold. They end up getting their butts kicked by the X-Men and a bunch of leprechauns, and Banshee throws Tom into the water, which prompts Juggernaut to drop everything and dive in to go looking for him, threatening to make the X-Men pay if Tom is killed as he was his only friend. Juggernaut dropping whatever he got going on to leap into Tom's rescue is a recurring trope. In Deadpool, The Circle Chase, Deadpool threatens to let Tom fall off the plane if Juggernaut doesn't give him the briefcase they were carrying, which contained files Deadpool wanted. Tom urges Kane not to let Deadpool have it, because if they sell the content of it, they will become millionaires. But Kane argues, and I quote, "Money don't mean nothing to me if we can live it up together, Tom." Deadpool ends up getting the briefcase and letting Tom fall off the airplane. Kane leaps after him. So in the 90s, Tom gets sieved by Cable, and then Kane's whole deal is trying to find cures for him. Doctors who can help with his condition. That's how he ended up with the biowood from earlier. A lot of Tom's stories rolled around the idea that he is unstable because of his powers. And around the 2000s, when secondary mutations were all the rage, Tom turned into a tree guy who was pretty unstable. And Kane asked the X-Men to come help him, though Tom refuses to help and joins the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. When Stacy X asks who Black Tom is, Wolverine answers that he is Juggernaut's boyfriend, and Juggernaut refutes that Tom is actually his partner, which makes this sound like it's a pronoun problem. In Uncanny X-Men 435, Juggernaut bangs She-Hulk, who then got a retcon as being She-Hulk from a different dimension because I guess banging Juggernaut is that frowned upon. And the opening line for the revelation is, "Sometimes women are just plain better than men." I want Jug. Let us know. Then She-Hulk asks about his relationship with Tom, and he tells her that he bought him a castle so that I could have a place to hide out in. If any fella wants to buy a castle with me, I freaking love castles. Anyway, she asks, "So, you and Tom?" And he goes, "I don't know. It just got tiring, All the taking, hiding, bickering, taking again. This is much nicer." And she says that maybe he didn't know what he wanted until it was right in front of him. Which I suppose it kind of makes it definitely sound like he was in a relationship with Tom. Which is not saying it out loud. Do you think this could be interpreted as, "Oh, actually Juggernaut straight"? No. No. Juggernaut loves Dazzler. Anyway, later in this run, Tom does end up killing a kid that Juggernaut had become close to, and no matter how much we are for gay wrongs, this is one of those that we cannot root for. Justice for Squid Kid, who thankfully got resurrected on Krakoa just a couple days after Juggernaut arrived. Later, Chris Claremont would try to address this deeply irredeemable situation, with Tom going to jail for his crimes and explaining that his mutation took over, and that on end day he lost his secondary mutation and then just went back to being a normal guy. Still has powers, just not made of wood. Then they're not seen together for years, they do still pop up, just not together. And during the Krakoan era, Tom spent half his time serving as surveillance system for the island and the other half dreaming of Juggernaut, or getting mistaken for Dracula. When he and Jug finally meet, Jug was surrounding a girl named Miranda, D-Cell, who should be going to Krakoa for her own safety, making her the third child they had together, if anyone's keeping tabs. And he really makes it a thing to go see Kane at the gate every chance he gets. He does it again when Kane is recruited to rescue Rubbermaid, who had been kidnapped, and when he delivered her at the gates, D-Cell also came to see Kane, solidifying that yes, Tom had been keeping an eye on her. After this event, Kane, with the help of Deadpool and D-Cell, fight a bad guy who had infiltrated Krakoa and was trying to steal as many mutant genes as possible to become omnipotent. And for helping save Krakoa, Charles finally grants him citizenship. Which, let's remember that Charles is just being petty, because there were already at least 3 humans living on Krakoa. And with Kane in the mix, 3 out of 4 are someone's husband. No, Kane and Tom are not married. But they are, you know. After this, Tom and Kane would be regularly spotted at the Green Lagoon having a drink. And it was during one of their drinks that Tom confessed feeling hurt about the Dracula comparisons, with Kane threatening to beat up whoever made those comments. So there you have it. Kane is always ready to leap into whatever it takes to help Tom. We can only hope that someday, someone will actually spell it out on the page. Okay, yeah, actually, I kind of have this problem here because Juggernaut is not a mutant, so I can't focus too much on Juggernaut. But on Avengers Academy, Juggernaut tells Justin that he needs to open up about him having feelings for Aaron, and he says, "I'll do it when you do it." Sir! Sir!
Pyro, St. John Allardyce. Avalanche, Dominicus Petrakis.
I just want to point out that they call St. John Johnny, but in no world am I ever gonna call Dominic Dom. Not happening. So the original Pyro, who controls fire but can't create it, was envisioned by John Byrne as a gay man. And supposedly he illustrated him in such a way, whatever that means. Supposedly Chris Claremont saw the art for it and just assumed that he was a British gentleman and went along with it, according to the CBR article that cites no sources. Later he was made Australian, and there really wasn't much of a confirmation on the gay front, but that's why we're here today, right? So Pyro meets Mystique while working as a journalist and a novelist of popular, spicy, gothic romances, and joins her little team, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, alongside Destiny, Blob, and Avalanche, who has seismic powers that are different from Ritor's, as it seems he doesn't actually have a connection to Earth like Ritor does, and he can't affect organic matter. He is Greek and worked as a landscape gardener, and he is of course the other half of this investigation. The Brotherhood of Evil Mutants come together to try and assassinate Senator Kelly. For years these two would just be out and about, committing crimes, being nuisances, but after a mission, Avalanche would end up abandoning the later named Freedom Force, and he and Pyro would go their own ways. Now in the annual for X-Men Volume 2, it is revealed to us that Pyro has been infected with a legacy virus. First eluded by Exodus, who claims that he has been tainted, and therefore is not worthy of asylum on Avalon. In the annual, Avalanche reunites with Pyro, and he goes over what happened on that mission where they ended up splitting ways. Nick apologizes for leaving him behind, and Johnny talks about how it hurt to be left by him. Nick reassures him that they are still mates, and confesses that he is relieved that Pyro survived the ordeal. They are having this conversation out on the balcony as poor Pyro is coughing his lungs out, and then it cuts inside to the rest of the team. Fantasia asks Toad if he is sure that Avalanche can help Pyro with his condition, to which he answers, not physically, but with luck, emotionally. It will give him a close friend to turn to. Blob interrupts by asking, are they kissing yet? He would get along well with Strong Guy. When Pyro and Avalanche do kiss, he should just show up around the corner just to go, oh, I didn't see that coming. Now, of course, Fred's just being homophobic, and Fantasia calls him out on it, and so does Empyrean, who proceeds to attack him to make him feel a little taste of the agony in the world, because hearing his venomous thoughts in regard to Mr. Petrakis' relationship with St. John irritated me more than I should have let it. And he adds, I cannot allow the gates of my sanctuary to be opened by those with closed minds. When Hyperion turns out to be bad news, Pyro decides to band up with other mutants also infected with Legacy who are looking for a cure. Avalanche tags along with him to find him a cure, even though he is not himself infected. Fellas, is it gay to drop everything you got going on to try and help save your best bud? But yeah, in a very serious note, this is essentially a storyline about AIDS, and it is quite unsavory how sloppily it was handled. Pyro's condition would just keep getting worse. He ends up succumbing to the virus after killing one of his teammates to save Senator Kelly, and on his last breath urges the senator to stop the mutant hate, and Kelly would seemingly change his mind about mutants after the heroic act. Now, unfortunately for us, these two have only really been seen together once in recent years, and it was at the second Hellfire Gala when Avalanche was running for the X-Men. But way before that. Avalanche ended up moving to San Francisco, where he had a bar named Nick's. Reminds you of anyone? No, he did do it first, but maybe there is something about drinks shaken not stirred. He is later depicted as the owner of a bar called the Gene Pool, so I guess he rebranded. Nick appeared quite a bit during the Utopian era. Does this coincide with the time in which Ritter was depowered? Yes. Yes, it does. Maybe the X-Men really do need a guy who can shake things up.
Shake things up with Avalanche.
On Krakoa, Pyro was resurrected, one of the first mutants to be resurrected in fact, and he was used as a bit of a guinea pig for resurrection. But he got over it and became a regular on the Marauders. He was often paired with Iceman, clearly referencing the fact that Iceman has had a thing with one Pyro, and also the movies, which, wow, really butchered Pyro, didn't they? Oh, and he also got a face tattoo that I hate and made me believe that he was promptly gonna drop dead so that no artist was ever tasked with drawing that monstrosity, and yet, he still has it to this day. Somehow. Avalanche became an agent of S.W.O.R.D. and was tasked with protecting Hulkling, but during a mission failed spectacularly and ended up dropping him into a hole, and decided to cover his ass by saying, "Oh, if anyone asks, my name is Ritter." He later ran for the X-Men. Why he thinks he's X-Men material is beyond me, but if you're running against Micromax and Gorgon, just ask yourself, why is the bar on the floor? Pyro and Avalanche? Historians will say they were good friends. Ooh, actually, before we move on, I want to talk about X-Men Evolution. Some people say that the depiction of Avalanche, who's not this Avalanche, it's a different character, called Lance Alberts, great name by the way, is a mix of Avalanche and Ritter. I don't fully agree with that idea, but I just want to point out that, like, if an X-Men adaptation has you paired up with Kitty Pryde, like, you're gay.
Exodus, Benet du Paris.
Exodus makes the cut for his relationship with his closest friend, Eobard Garrington. The two were crusading towards the Holy Land, or not quite. Exodus wants to find the Tower of Power in Aqaba, and the two seemingly had made plans to go together. However, Eobard awakens quite confused about himself, because, big story short, Cersei and the Black Knight have traveled back in time to the 12th century. And while Cersei remained herself Black Knight, Dane Whitman had been put up in the body of Eobard because he was the Black Knight in the time that they had traveled to, and so their conscience are fighting over control for their one body. When Eobard finds Cersei, he immediately ditches Exodus, who isn't going by Exodus yet, who ends up storming off alone to find Aqaba, mostly because they had a little disagreement when Eobard refuses to have Cersei use her magic to help them, as it would be heresy, and Exodus asks if it wasn't heresy killing all the innocent people during the Crusade. He had a point. So Exodus crossed the desert alone, and on the verge of exhaustion he had a vision, which many years later he would correlate to being the Phoenix Force. When his body finally gave out, he was awakened by a voice asking him if he was willing to risk his life for his ambition of becoming one of the strong ones. When he answered affirmatively, a giant boulder appeared, rolling towards him. This triggered his powers and he destroyed the boulder. Besides being visually mutated with magenta skin from the start, he is telekinetic, a telepath, has a healing factor, and his powers enhanced by the faith that other people have on him. He then battles a weird scarab thing with titties that calls him Exodus, saying, "You are much, much more than human. You are the Exodus, the journeyman bridging the chasm between an ancient past and a distant, inevitable future." Meanwhile, Dane/Eobard have figured out the situation, and with Cersei advising them that they should go look for Bennett, where he might wind up dead, they set out to find him with the help of her magic, cause the morals from earlier no longer apply when your best bud is in danger, of course. Cersei explains to Eobard/Dane what happened between Cersei and Dane, and Eobard/Dane concludes that the only way to get Dane back into the original body would be to get Cersei to take Eobard out of his body. So, like, he gave his life to try and save the marriage of his descendant, like, 8 or 9 centuries in the future? Oh, and Dane gets to keep Eobard's memories. What? They go to Aqaba and find that Bennett is now the subject of Apocalypse. Apocalypse takes both Cersei and the Black Knight as hostages and tells Exodus that if he wants to prove himself as strong, that he should slay the Black Knight. Exodus tries to do as Apocalypse tells him to, but ends up refusing when Black Knight, whoever he is, says, and I quote, "In the name of the friendship that we've shared, all the hardships we've endured, I will not kill you, du Paris." And adding, "Yes, Exodus, kill us. prove your obedience to he who would break your heart rather than he who has ever been loyal to it. Exodus tries to rebel against Apocalypse, who threatens to take Exodus' gifts away and puts him into stasis. Black Knight begs Apocalypse not to take his friend away, with Exodus telling him that he can erase his memories of himself as to not burden him, to which Black Knight tells him that he would rather remember the time and the bond they shared. Later, Dane tracks down Exodus' tomb, where he is in stasis, and apologizes to him for not being there to help him when he needed it the most. So yeah, the moral of the story here is that Dane and Cersei went back in time and ended up creating Exodus, even though they thought they could avoid doing so, all while trying to save their marriage. I'm still stuck in the part where Dane is in Eobar's body, and then seemingly they let Dane take control. I feel like Dane was the one that was always in control, and they let Cersei overtake Eobar. Like, rude. She's like, Dane, you know Exodus because you were there when he betrayed Eobar. When the reality is more like, you were there when I displaced Eobar and took away the one thing that kept Exodus' impulse control in check. Dane also gets other Black Knights to pledge alliance to his cause, and so some are forever to be stationed at his tomb, guarding it, waiting for him to wake up. And Exodus would stay in stasis for centuries. This is his origin story as told by the Black Knight Exodus story, but the story would be revisited in Immortal X-Men. Exodus recalls the event and says about Apocalypse, "He challenged me to kill a human whom I loved, and I rejected him for it." But it doesn't end here. In fact, the next issue is part of the Judgment Day event, and Exodus' judgment has him experiencing a vision in which Eobar is being dragged into hell by some demon, and he urges Bennett to save him by switching places with him. Sebastian Shaw is our narrator for the issue, and he's like, oh my god, he's gonna fall for it, isn't he? But Bennett says, "I love you, but my work remains. The mutant church is still in its cradle. I cannot sacrifice myself, even for one such as you." Sebastian goes and knocks some sense into Bennett, literally, and then he tells him about how his passions have also led him to committing mistakes. Clearly, he is implying that Bennett would have let his feelings get to the best of him, and that he might have failed the test if that was the case. So basically at this point we have had Bennett actually publicly declare his love for Eobar, and still, the moral of the story here really is just this: I don't trust Cersei.
Amplate. Marius Sainte-Croix.
Marius Sainte-Croix is the eldest son of the Sainte-Croix family. He is Monet's older brother. But he always said felt like a disappointment because of his way of being. He was too delicate, too lonely, too bookish. But at some point, he did find some solace with the family's gardener, I think. And he tells him he's reading a book about trammeled lust and damned souls. Funny, I too was reading a book about trammeled love and damned souls. He claims the awakening of his powers proved to the world that his soul was disgusting. Oh no, babe, that's just internalized homophobia. So these are just annotations from his latest, Avengers Academy appearances. I do not dive into the Monet of it all because I do not care about it. Emplay kidnaps Shayla into nowhere, and he tells her that he knows she has feelings for Brielle because he too once knew of love and talks about a romance. I too knew love, after a fashion, dizzying and profuse, sweat on skin, a smile like a sickle through my young heart, kisses like the sun opening on my lips. When I had lips. He does have great comedic timing, hold on. So, he killed his mother using his powers, psychic vampirism, and he has this little interaction with Aaron in Avengers Academy. He tells Aaron that he too killed his mother. Now, important to note, Aaron did not kill his mother. His mother died of cancer, but his father blamed her death on Aaron's queerness. Marius also calls Justin a beautiful side of beef. Emplate wants to feed on Escapade, because when he feeds a lot on someone, he gets their powers. And if he gets Shayla's powers, he can go back to the land of the living and leave nowhere. And how did he get there in the first place? So, after his powers manifested, he left his home in Monaco, and made his way to America in search for a cure. He is found by Blade and Saffron, who realize that he is no ordinary vampire and wants to help him, taking him into their home and giving him some sort of antidote. Him waking up in a Dazzler shirt in the very next battle. Iconic. He seemed to stay with Saffron and her daughter, Brielle, spoiler, for a while, but since the antidote isn't really effective because he's not really a vampire, he keeps up his search trying to find a cure. He finds himself at a bookstore. Inside the bookstore, he meets DOA, who suggests a book with a distant dimension where he may find peace, explaining to him that the title L'Emplate means a need to be filled or a wound that needs binding, a gap unaddressed, a party accused, that which implores, sues, seeks, one who pleads. What DOA doesn't say is that the book essentially damns your soul and you are trapped in that dimension forever. Happens to the best of us. So that's why Marius is stuck in nowhere and his only hobby is terrorizing lesbians. Marius could also be spotted in the Invisible Light, the queer nightclub, having a drink with Anthony Oliveira himself.
Mind meld.
Mind Meld is a small character from the 90s. She worked for Shinobi Shaw and has only ever appeared in the storyline she debuted in. She has the ability to swap minds with other people, taking over their bodies and displacing their minds onto other living beings. The reason I decided to include her, and I'm just gonna quote the wiki here because they explained it really nicely, Mind Meld was constantly referred to with feminine pronouns, while the body she inhabited seemingly had male features. There are many theories for this, one being that she identified as a woman but felt more comfortable in a masculine body, and as such, stated one. However, there is no certainty of the body's gender, her sexuality, nor if the body she was shown inhabiting was even originally hers. For whatever reason, their only appearance, X-Force 62, is not on Marvel Unlimited. This issue had peak character design with characters who look like they are straight out of Final Fantasy. This character seems to create a little bit of a pronoun confusion with X-Force. Boom Boom asks if she should refer to them as Mr. or Mrs. In not a nice way, may I add. And then they beat him up. Like, this is also the issue where Tabby calls Shinobi a pansy, so like, someone woke up and chose violence. I think maybe the funniest part of it all is that, oh, Shinobi Shaw has a trans person working for them. Oh, Shinobi Shaw is an ally?
Jacob Shaw.
In 1915, Mr. Sinister recruited Jacob Shaw to track pre-mutants, people who had the X gene but no powers. Jacob was himself one of these pre-mutants. Mr. Sinister gave him an active X gene, one with the power of shapeshifting. Now if you remember part 1, we talked about a mutant who had the power to shapeshift and had a sample of their DNA stolen by Mr. Sinister. Courier. Now it's not canon that this X gene that Jacob got is the one that came from Jacqueline, because when this book came out, that storyline wasn't out yet, but chronologically it had already happened 24 years prior. Make of that where you will. After the death of his father, Cornelius Shaw, Jacob wanted to inherit one thing from his late father more than anything: his spot in the Hellfire Inner Circle. However, the club ended up awarding his late father's position to his brother Esau instead. Jacob first used his powers to pose as Sir Waldman Pierce. He is the one at the top of the Hellfire Club. He used his disguise to approach his brother and kill him in a fit of jealousy over not having been picked to take up the Inner Circle spot. He was certain that now, with Esau gone, they would need to fill the position and would definitely go looking for
Jacob.
But when his invitation never arrived, he decided to take it up a notch and go and kill Pierce directly. He got close to him by posing as a woman and is shown in bed with Pierce and another woman. That's the basis for the assumption that there are some vibes running around. Union Jack, James Montgomery Falsworth, who is not the gay Union Jack, funny if he was, breaks in to arrest Pierce for the murder of Esau. And Jacob, who is still a woman, attacks him. Union Jack chases after him and witnesses Jacob emerge from where a woman stood. Jacob fled to the US, continued to work for Mr. Sinister, and would end up fathering a son, Sebastian Shaw, and would eventually die from a blood complication exacerbated by his weird mutation. So like, what is up with the Shaw family? With Sebastian claiming to be a carnivore, and with Shinobi may not even be Jacob's grandson, and like, somehow this apple did not fall far from the tree.
Red Lotus, Paul Hark.
This character has a total of 9 appearances according to the wiki, and most of them are in the original series he debuted in. He makes the list here, and to be honest, he doesn't even appear in the comic that I show as proof, but Bear with me. In Marauders Volume 2, Number 5, Somnus reveals that he has learned to fight from him, as Paul is a skilled martial artist. He says he had plenty of time to learn because the night he spent with him was actually 10 years long. For what we know about Somnus and how he makes use of his powers, we know that a night is never just a night, and that things were bound to get a little gay. They did not spend 10 years brawling in that dream, I assure you. This character has not been seen in almost 20 years and literally only got his name dropped, so what else can I say about him? They have him listed as Australian everywhere, but his father was Gaoyang Zhu, so I suppose he has Chinese roots? Anyway, so like 20 years ago, last time he actually showed up, he was working at the Hellfire Club and Celine tries to eat him in front of Rachel. You know, like she did with Rachel's friend, Nick Damiano, who everyone collectively agrees is gay. And when Rachel saves him, they make out. Chris Claremont, why is this man another one of Rachel's beers? Also, did you know this character technically appeared in the Dark Phoenix movie? 9 appearances. What were they cooking in the X-Men Fox universe?
Pixie, Megan Gwynn.
Megan is the daughter of a fairy and the X-Men villain, Jason Wyngarde, Mastermind. She grew up in Wales, raised by her grandparents, or whoever they are really, and she lived under the impression that her father was a coal miner who had died when she was young. This was not true, this was a lie that her mom put onto her. So Megan for a long time never suspected that she wasn't just a mutant, she was also a little fairy. She has 2 half-sisters, Reagan and Martinique Wyngarde, Lady Mastermind and Mastermind respectively. How you come from that tree and turn out fine is the real question here though. Pixie is an Academy X student. She was part of Wolfsbane's squad and later Magnus' class when Wolfsbane left the school. Pixie is visually mutated with pink hair, fly-like eyes, and a pair of fairy wings, but her actual power is producing hallucinogens. She has pixie dust that makes you see teddy bears and unicorns. The other major thing that Pixie does is serve as a teleporter, an ability derived from a spell taught to her by magic while on Limbo. You guys remember the Limbo shenanigans of the Academy X class, right? For Pixie, magic senses that she is the most innocent of all of the children, and explains that her soul is the perfect ingredient to cast a soul sword, which could be used to defeat Belasco, magic's abuser. But because not all of Pixie's soul was used to make the thing, it's actually just a dagger and not a full-on sword, but it serves the same purpose. The teleportation spell that magic taught her is Sihal Novarum Shinoth. Now she mostly serves as a teleporter because I guess writers have a hard time finding a use for pixie dust that makes you see unicorns. Skill issue. Pixie is featured here because on her appearance in the 5th volume of The Runaways, she teams up with Nico Minoru, and the writer would say that the two shared a moment, which looked like this. The writer also referenced the Secret Wars alternate universe in which Pixie dated Jubilee. Don't think about it. Besides these words from Rainbow Rowell, the only other argument for Pixie being queer comes from her role finding a wedding gift for Destiny and Mystique. And all comments on how they are an obvious selection of mutants, which could be potentially one of two things, that all of the chosen mutants are visually mutated, or that they're all queer. Roxy and Vector are both confirmed queer, but Megan and Bardos are not. At the end of this issue, Roxy flirts a little with Megan, asking if she was aware that Cecily and her are in an open relationship, possibly approaching her about becoming their 3rd, or 4th, or whatever number it is, but Pixie acts oblivious to the comment. So, do I think we have enough evidence to make a case for Pixie? I'm not a big fan of writers telling us that they thought this character was so and so, and that they had that in mind while writing the story. It's all fine and well, but if you have something to say, put it on the page. Now, I can understand that, that book, that issue, that story, maybe it was not the place to have a discussion about Pixie's sexuality. That's totally fine. But I guess that means that the opportunity is still out in the open. Someone can come along and actually solidify this narrative. But Pixie's also a huge Dazzler fan. And I thought it was really funny in Pixie Strikes Back, her mom says, "It is my own incredible to me that my daughter should have grown up to be one so queer and perplexing." Now, of course, she means queer as in strange, not as in... But I did find it funny. Pixie has also had male love interests. She had a relationship with Velocida for a bit, but she broke things off when she realized that Velocida was also seeing Hope Summers at the time. a total mess. So what do we think? Should Pixie be bisexual like her Secret Wars counterpart? Or was she just testing the waters out with Velocidad and should be a lesbian? What do you think?
Indra, Paras Gavaskar.
Indra is an Academy Axe kid, part of the Alpha Squadron squad, and he is pretty unremarkable in that series. I love him, but it's true. He is a practicing Jain, and his codename is a reference to the god Indra, god of storms, war, and the sky. He is visually mutated with purple skin, and his power is to involve himself in a exoskeleton/armor thing that he can summon to defend himself. Given that he is Jain, he tries to never use his powers offensively, but has done so in desperate moments, which has brought him great guilt. Indra's most notable storyline is in X-Men Legacy. He is called by his family to come to Mumbai, and he does so accompanied by Rogue, Anole, and Loa, and Magneto, who invited himself as he wanted to study the weather anomalies that were hitting Mumbai in the form of storms. When Paras arrives at the family estate, his mother reveals that the reason he was summoned to Mumbai so hastily is because his brother fell into a coma after experiencing one of these storms. His brother was to be married very soon, and the family decided that they're not gonna postpone the wedding, they are simply gonna marry Paras off instead. Paras is not happy about the situation, but he is not a confrontationist, so he decides to roll with it, even though he clearly has no interest in any of it. Meanwhile, his entourage has gone to the city to investigate the storms. They find themselves in the middle of one and see a girl emerge from it, and then they're attacked by sentinels. They defeat the sentinels and decide to take the girl back with them to the estate. Absolutely f***ing rude. So the girl they found, her name is Luz, and she has light powers. And she sucks. She becomes obsessed with Paras the moment she lays her eyes on him, going as far as using her powers to draw, how can I say this, cringe fan art of the two? Embraced? Naked? Huh? You know, given that the children of the Vault reproduce asexually, like, what the f does this even mean for her? Because yes, spoiler alert, Luz is not a mutant, she is a children of the Vault. She even kisses him non-consensually, to which he replies that although she is beautiful, he is not free, not free. When the children of the Vault attack the mansion to try and get Luz back, Luz sneaks into Vipala's room while Rogue and Magneto fight off the children of the Vault. Vipala is Paras' bride-to-be. She accepts changing places with Luz for a chance to go see the world. And so Paras almost marries Luz instead, as he decided to rush the ceremony, as it was the only way that his parents would allow him to go and help Rogue and Magneto, who had ended up being captured by the children. When Luz interrupts the wedding, exposing the fact that she's been posing as Vipala because this joke has gone too far, Paras calls off the wedding and goes with Loa and Anole to save Rogue and Magneto. Indra never addresses Luz again, and she ends up leaving with the children, promising that the two would meet again. I would get a restraining order on her, honestly. In the Mistaken Destiny wedding special, Indra, alongside Pixie, Bling, and Anole have been picked by Wolverine to try and find a worthwhile gift for Mystique. Again, Anole comments on how they are an obvious selection of mutants, which could be potentially two things: that they're all visually mutated, or that they're all queer. Throughout this issue, Indra is seen being very supportive of Anole. He's seen defending him, protecting him, and listening closely on his suggestions. On the last panel of the story, Indra holds out a red rose which he gives to Anole. A red rose does represent romance, but this has yet to be addressed. We could also perhaps make a case for his facial expression when Santu outs Victor. You know, it's one of two things. It's either homophobia or the fear that Santu might out him next. I want to finish this off with a quote. When Paras is about to leave Mumbai, his father tells him that he has the chance to choose between evil and good. Evil being leaving with his friends, and good being staying and marrying Vipala. Paras tells his father that maybe he doesn't understand what evil is, and his father says, "It's our duty to take the other path, the path of peace and non-violence." To which Paras replies, "I tried the other path, father. I could still hear the screams." So, I just want to say that developing Indra as gay would make for such an amazing story about finally taking agency and standing up for yourself and what you really want, instead of trying too hard to fit in with this notion that other people haven't made up about yourself. Can only hope that one day this will be addressed, as it was not when the chance was right there.
Zishan.
In 2011, Kieran Gillen created a character for his Generation Hope book, a character that we only know as Zishan. Zishan's mutant ability was to seemingly liquefy his own body, and since at the time the new mutants that were popping up were having difficulties with their powers, Hope Summers was the one helping them deal with it. He was unable to control his powers, and after being teased by his friends about it, in a moment of desperation he ended up taking his own life. Kieran Gillen explained in an interview that he wanted to write this story to raise awareness to the alarming rise in public suicide stories of gay youth in the 2010s. So while we know very little of Zishan, and we can't even really pinpoint his sexuality, I think the story was written not only as a mutant metaphor, but also a metaphor for the struggles of gay youth. It probably has a deeper meaning with Zishan himself being queer, hence its connection to the gay youth tragedy. Or, was this character fridged for some trauma for the team? Hopefully not. I feel like the creation of this character comes not only from the mind, but also from the heart, from an author who understands, the topic at hand, personally. Props to the Internet Archive, the only place where you can still read the original interview.
Scout, Gabby Kinney.
Gabby Kinney, clone of Laura, daughter of Wolverine, sister of Akihiro, makes the list because in X-Men Red, when Jean says that she will be in their mind, Gabby says, and I quote, "Okay, I apologize for anything weird you see in there. Oh, and I haven't fully explored those feelings for the girl on the bus, so if you could leave those alone, it would be appreciated." This is obviously a jab at Jean's behavior when she outed Bobby. So, do we think Bobby then just went around telling the X-Men that Jean outed him? Because, why else would she know to say this? If anything, it's the writer calling out Bendis for his lack of finesse for the whole situation. Now, our rule here is that we only look at 616 iterations, but I do want to point out that in All New Wolverine 33, we have an alternate universe in which Gabby has become Wolverine, and she has a family with someone named Taylor. This Taylor is never addressed with any pronouns, and since Taylor is a unisex name, it could be anything. Tom Taylor wrote both stories, so he probably did have some plans to have her be queer in some way. Having the partner be called Taylor is a bit creepy now that I think of it. Gabby has retractable claws, one in each hand, a healing factor much like the other Snit family members, and she is a clone of Laura. Laura has many clones, actually. All of them have different personalities, and Gabby is supposed to represent the innocence that was taken from her. A lot of Gabby's stories are about her being cloned and getting revenge on the institution that cloned her. She's an avid defender of clones' rights and is well beloved amongst the X-Men ranks. Also bring back Honey Badger because Scout is just not giving as a codename. Honey Badger was so cute and Akihiro gave it to her, so come on.
White Sword, Blue. Ironfire, John Ironfire.
We first meet White Sword in the Ten of Swords event. He is one of the sword bearers that will fight against the X-Men in the Otherworld. Most notably, he killed Gorgon and also healed Doug when he was poisoned at the banquet. He is the wielder of Purity, that's the name of the sword, and his powers include a very strong healing factor that makes him barely age. He can also heal other people, but in order to do so, he has to put them under his control. He can break the connection whenever he wants to, but when he does it, he can no longer do it again. He has a group of 100 soldiers that follow him around called the 100 Champions, and he has been healing them for millennia. Ironfire we first meet in the Sins of Sinister event from a different timeline, and then he is introduced in the 616. He comes bearing the message of the arrival of Genesis. He is a skilled swordsman and can use his blood to forge weapons. Blue asks that John brings the ivory sword, Purity, to Arako, and to warn the Ring about Genesis' arrival. John refuses because he does not want to leave Blue, so Blue breaks their link so that John will lose his connection to the war through Blue. Again, White Sword can only have people hold servitude to him once, so after their connection is severed, John can no longer reintegrate the 100 Champions and can't be healed by White Sword anymore. White Sword says that Ironfire has bled his soul for him for millennia, that he was the first champion to fall, but also the first to rise, meaning that he died and then was resurrected by White Sword. John says about it, "My life came from you. My life is for you. Say the words and I'll spend it again." To which Blue replies that he has died way too many times, saying, I ask more of you now. I ask you survive. And breaks their oath. The narrative also refers to John as the one he loved best. The one he trusted with his life, his soul, and his sword. As it turns out, they find themselves on different sides of the war, with Ironfire joining the Brotherhood and White Sword fighting for Genesis, as he is being mind-controlled by Annihilation, the creepy mask thingy. Ironfire would tell Storm that Blue gave him an honorable discharge and ended his service, and so it was his duty to do the same for Blue. When they meet on the battlefield, John comes with full intention to kill Blue, and Blue promised that he will make his death swift, as it would be fitting for a former champion of his. But they don't directly fight at first. John starts by slaying all the 99 champions that were still following Blue. John slayed all the soldiers and pled Blue to stand down once more, but he doubled down on his loyalty to Genesis. To the death then, and John ends up slaying Blue with the ivory sword. He of course gets better because he can heal. John says about healing, "Everything heals, even a heart cut into two, unless something stops it." He can stop Blue from healing by using the sword, but he decides not to. And then when Blue heals, they hug it out. In Herald of Apocalypse, there's this panel of Apocalypse and Genesis, and there's this couple in the foreground. A Blue character paired with a character with horns, who looks very much like John. We never do see Blue without his helmet, so it makes it a little bit harder to identify him, but Apocalypse says on this page, "Our healers love and play amongst their people." So yeah, I guess that could mean that, yes, this is indeed Blue and John. And that it makes it at least twice that Apocalypse has said something about queer characters, so. I also did not script an outro for this video, but then I realized that I needed one if I wanted you to look at the flying little credits. So here we are. I want to shout out characters who did not make the list. I'm gonna start off by shouting out Farrell and Marrow, and whatever they had going on in that Unlimited comic. Shout out to Magic. Magic does have this weird relationship with Kitty. Like, weird, okay. And she does also mention she has that or fight thing. So whatever that means, good for her. Shout out to Storm and her relationship with Yukio, where they are more than friends. How Claremontian of them. And shout out to Gambit. See part 1 for details. You know when I told you in part 1 that after I was done with the video that I lost all the files? Here's the thing. I think Pride of the X-Men is cursed. And no, I did not lose the files a second time. So on the dawn of the 28th of January, I finished the first render of the video. It's 3 in the morning. I said, okay, let's head on to bed. I get in bed. 4 in the morning, there is a huge storm outside. And I mean huge. Like, you can hear things shattering outside. Like ceramics breaking. And I'm thinking, okay, so, we probably just lost some roof tiles. My region experienced the biggest storm ever recorded in recent history. We went without power, without water, without Wi-Fi, telecommunications. Sunday that week we finally had power back on. And while I had made many plans to originally have this video, the first video, come out on January, that did not happen because, yikes, that was terrible. But hey, listen, we made it out alive. And I just want to say to the big badger in the sky that if you are trying to get at me specifically for whatever I'm coming up with, I don't know, Marvel girl, try harder.